Hello everyone, welcome to Metazoa Brewing and welcome to your Saturday Evening Post Week in Review. My name is Chris Wakefield. I am the marketing manager for the Saturday Evening Post.
I'm Nicholas Gilmore. I'm a staff writer.
I'm Troy Brownfield, also a staff writer.
There's a lot we're going to talk about this week, but first of all, I want to remind you, you can subscribe to the Saturday Evening Post. You get a 1-year subscription for just $15 a year. 1 year, 6 new issues for only $15 a year. You can find out more information at SaturdayEveningPost.com/subscribe. Now, today is not just national, it is international beer day. Hence, we're at Metazoa Brewing. Troy, what's your favorite beer?
Oh, you mean domestic?
It's international.
Well, it's to be celebrated internationally.
What's your favorite international beer?
Oh, man, that's a good question. For my friend Sean Delaney, we're going to say Heineken.
Heineken?
Pilsner or Cal.
I love Pilsner. I feel like Pilsner gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the most pungent or strong beer.
No, but it's nice, crisp.
Yeah.
Good beer.
I like Land Shark. I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed of my love of Land Shark.
I didn't say land shark.
Anyways, all right. We'll start with, we'll go back to Nick. You are in the middle of editing this classic fiction summer series that are steamy love stories, some of which are very interesting.
Yeah, so we've been doing classic fiction for a while, I think around 2 years, and it's a weekly series. I've been editing it and the whole time, and it's stories from the archives, a lot of really big names, fiction authors who have published with the Post, Jack London, Kurt Vonnegut, Dorothy Parker. But this summer series is all romance. It's this summer romance series, mostly stories from the 40s and 50s. A lot of will they, won't they, a lot of love triangles. But yeah, it's an interesting snapshot in time to look at the fiction of the era. These are stories you're not going to find anywhere else. Usually authors that you probably wouldn't find anywhere else.
Right.
And
It's interesting.
Sexy intrigue.
On a daily basis, those of us who work at the Post, we continue to find these amazing pieces in our archives, over 200 years worth of content, and Nick's come along across these short stories and these fiction stories. It's just amazing the things we find in the archives.
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about Franklin, but there's just almost an article for everything. There are periods in which certain things weren't covered as much, but
Right.
if you with reference to the space shuttle we talked about a week or so ago, there are articles from 1973 talking about the planning of the space shuttle. You
Right.
just wouldn't find that anywhere else.
Right, and you can find those classic fiction stories online at SaturdayEveningPost.com every week, right?
Yeah, every week we have a new one.
Every single week, so there's something for everybody there. Troy, you worked on a couple pieces this week over at SaturdayEveningPost.com from Franklin on Peanuts, and not including, but also Spiderman.
Yeah. Let's talk about Franklin first. Franklin was introduced into Peanuts 50 years ago this week, which was a really big deal because it broke the color line for African American characters in comic strips. Not that there hadn't been before, but this was Peanuts. And
Right.
by 68 it was a juggernaut. It was the profile I mentioned in the Post was in 1957, and Schultz was really aggressive about marketing his stuff and merchandising it, but all to the service of making the strip. And a mother of 3 who's also a school teacher, shortly after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, wrote Schultz and said that it would be really important if he could show some representation in the strip.
Right.
And so after some back and forth and some discussion and her getting other parents to write to him, he wrote her back and said, watch on July 31st. And they introduced Franklin. Charlie Brown met him while playing at the beach. They become friends. Franklin is shown as being a student at Peppermint Patty's school, and then he goes on to appear in, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving animated feature up into the most recent Charlie Brown film. He's been a presence ever since. And kind of interestingly defined by being like one of the kindest members of the gang.
Right.
That he really is kind of accepting. Also, interestingly, his dad was in Vietnam.
Oh, really?
Which was a big thing that they didn't really mention as a contemporaneous thing, but in one of the strips, Franklin refers to the fact that his dad is serving in Vietnam at the time. So that was also a big deal to kind of broach that
I
taboo
did not know
subject.
that.
Did you read a lot of Peanuts as a kid?
No, we always watched the movies.
Right.
You know, Arbor Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, The Great Pumpkin, but
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave it to Troy to segue from Peanuts to Spider-Man.
Yeah,
This isn't as easy as I make it look,
August 1st was Spider-Man Day.
which I didn't know he had his own day,
Yeah,
but everybody gets one.
Yeah. So basically, the
inside
recognition is the recognition is built on the fact that Spider-Man's first appearance was in August of 1962, and what I wrote about was some of the weirder facts that surround Spider-Man. Now, that could fill up 10, 12 pieces really, but I tried to go for 8 big ones just to introduce some people to some things that they might not have known or heard
Right.
about.
So there's stuff in there about some of the villains, Venom, and then there's Cindy Moon. Who is Cindy Moon? She was bitten by the spider also, or Spider-Man bit her?
Well, that could still happen.
He's like Dracula.
But, Cindy Moon was introduced just a few years ago.
Oh, she's new.
Yeah, writer Dan
Okay.
Slott. Marvel did a big event called Original Sin, which had to do with the character the Watcher, like revealing basically one terrible secret from the past of each hero.
Okay.
It might have been something that they did or something that they didn't know about. In Spider-Man's case, he found out someone else was bitten by the spider. So the spider that bit him also bit someone else that was in the room that day.
Okay.
And it turned out to be this girl named Cindy Moon. And through a complicated series of circumstances you can read about in the story, she spent several years in a bunker. Like one of the supporting characters was hiding her from a villain. Peter actually finds her and frees her. And then she becomes an ongoing member of the supporting cast. Sony is even Sony's trying to develop all these other ancillary spider characters in solo movies. They're actually looking at developing a Silk movie. Silk is her superhero.
Okay.
So.
Do you have a favorite Spider-Man villain, and why is it Doc Ock?
I like the Willem Dafoe Green Goblin.
Okay. Strong.
Good answer.
Strong. He throws
That's the only
pumpkins at
one that
people.
I've seen.
Okay. You have a favorite Spider-Man villain, and why is it Doc Ock?
Seriously, Doc Ock.
It's Doc Ock.
Yeah,
There's
because-
no argument about this.
He's,
Should probably watch
you know,
that
if
one.
nothing else, Doc Ock has the best dialogue. You know,
Yeah.
there's the histrionic pronunciation. I'll crush you like the insect you are, and all the thing. I mean, I love Doc Ock. He's a great counterpoint.
Right.
Oh, but you hated Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze.
Well, yeah. Hey, Alfred Molina is Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a
amazing.
fantastic part.
Let's get to my favorite part of the week. I wait all week for Don't At Me. Troy, give me your Don't At Me for this week.
All right. Whenever you're in a casual conversation with somebody and they say, "What do you do?" and you say, you're a writer either for the Post or other stuff I've done and everything. I don't like the response, "Oh, I would write if I just had the time," because that's what it is. Writing as a whole, whether it's writing novels or anything, it's like, "Oh, if I only had an extra 10 minutes in my day, that's how it happens."
That's not how it happens?
No, it is in fact not.
With as much as you write every single week, I'm starting to think it is.
Well,
Troy
it's-
does like 5 new pieces a week.
I wouldn't go that far, but
We'll get you there.
But there's an element of, I'm not going to go up to an auto mechanic and say, if I only had time, I'd rebuild that carburetor.
I do it myself.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for upstart writers or wannabe writers?
Oh,
What's the most important thing to know?
read all the time.
Read.
Read all the time and try to write every day. And even if you don't write every day, try to think about what you're going to write about.
Okay.
That's
It's good advice.
Nick, what's your Don't At Me?
Well, in honor of International Beer Day.
International Beer Day.
International. I think that there is this kind of opinion that craft beer is for snobs, or beer has gone too far, and we just want our good old domestics.
I want my Bud Light.
And the Post actually published. We actually published an opinion on this. An argument for craft beer is awful. I just want my regular Budweiser. But I mean, if you're taking that position, you're arguing for a giant corporation,
Right.
Like as opposed to very small independent craft breweries everywhere.
Do you think it was too much too soon with craft beer? I mean, just where we are now at Metazoa Brewing, they're great here at Metazoa, but we can throw a rock and hit 6 other breweries around town.
Well,
so,
and I mean, that follows the demand.
and that's a good. You see it as a good thing.
No, yeah, I think beer's
Okay.
never been better. I think it's great.
I agree with that. I do agree with that.
And I think in the U.S. particularly, I mean, that's something that we have, we're very strong at, is making beer.
Okay. All right.
So Nick's list have never been better: beer and pop music.
At the same time.
We'll see what it is next week. Silverware, never been better. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the Post online, SaturdayEveningPost.com/subscribe. Once again, a 1-year subscription is only $15. That gets you 6 brand new issues of the Saturday Evening Post every single year. SaturdayEveningPost.com/subscribe. Troy, where can we find you on social media?
On Twitter at Troy Brownfield.
Nick?
I'm on Twitter at Darwin Jr. with a Y.
We're going to start a new GoFundMe to get Nick a new Twitter handle. Because I can never spell it.
That's
Never
my
been better.
father's name.
Oh, it is? I didn't know
I
that.
was going to say at Never Been Better.
At never been better.
Never been better.
And of course, you can find
Never
me on social media at Wakefield Report. And you can find the Saturday Evening Post at Saturday Evening Post. Again, Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and of course online at SaturdayEveningPost.com. We'll see you next Friday.